Hello. This video is about how to set up a guitar. That's the main focus, and just kind of a little history. I started playing in church in 1968. I was playing the mandolin. I was 8 years old, and I was playing, and then somewhere around 10, I started learning the guitar thanks to my brother who showed me how to read a chord diagram and said, learn as many chords as you can and practice changing really fast, which I did. And I would watch other guitar players play and I'd change and things like that. And in 1971, I was 11 years old, bought my first guitar. That was mine. And a kid had an electric guitar and pieces in a box, some kind of cheap, I don't know, guitar. And I said, what do you want for that? He said, what do you got in your pocket? I said, $1.69. He sold it to me for $1.69. I took it home and my dad guided me through the process as I put it together. And um, I did everything. My dad taught me how to solder, did everything. The only thing he did was he made a new pick guard for this electric guitar out of Formica, which actually worked and it was fine. And I had to solder the pickup together and work on the neck and refinish it. And I had to learn how to set it up, the bridge, the nut, all of that stuff at age 11. And since that time, I've been setting up my own guitars, and I've built it quite a few, and I've worked on quite a few nice high-end guitars for some people and some vintage things, all that kind of stuff. So I just thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about how to set up a guitar. Um, my way of doing it probably isn't the only way in the world that it has to be done. It's the way I do it. And it's been working for me for 50 plus years. And I've learned more as the time went by. And I'm just saying that perhaps some people will be tempted to leave me some instructional comments. I'd appreciate if you didn't, to be honest with you. I've done this a lot. It works for me. I'm not really looking for someone who's done it less than I have to give me advice on it. And that's as politely as I think I could put that. And in the process, I've chosen this guitar. It's not an Ovation. It's some sort of knockoff. It's a Glary. What is that? Glarry. So if I loosen this, you can see that on there. Got it on Amazon for $75, brand new. We'll be talking about it. There's really nothing wrong with this guitar that a little bit of setup and wouldn't fix it. The bridge is way too high. The strings are quite a ways from the fretboard because of the height of the bridge. The nut, it looks, just glancing at it, it's a little high. I'd estimate that the bow relief in the neck, it could flatten out a little more, all those kinds of things. But there's a step process. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm the patron saint of lost guitar causes. Who knows? That's why I restored that old Silvertone, which I'm playing in love. I like the idea of, I've actually owned a couple mail order guitars from Sears or Penny's or one of those places. I like the idea of that. I like the idea that a person can buy a guitar cheap. If you knew how to set one up, you could get away with that a lot more. And, I understand there are always going to be people that believe the more you pay for an instrument, the better you sound. I think that might be true up to a point. There's no question. I played some really beautiful instruments. I was at an event, a Taylor guitar event, and playing, and the Taylor guy there just kept handing me guitars, and they were thousands of dollars, beautiful guitars, and they sounded great, and it was a lot of fun. But One of the reasons the more you pay, the better the guitar sounds or plays is because at that point, those guitars are set up properly. Now, if you bought a guitar and you took it in and you paid a luthier to set up the guitar, you're going to get up into the range of some of the instruments that you'd pay more for. So that's part of the scenario. Part of it is better ingredients, right? Better pickups, better nut material, better bridge material, all those kind. That's all true, but honestly, when it comes to sounding good, it has more to do with the guitar player than the guitar. Um, if someone doesn't sound good, they can't really blame it on the guitar as a general rule. They still have to be in tune. You know, you can take a guitar that's thousands of dollars, and if you're not tuning it, you're still going to sound bad. If you don't know how to play, you're going to sound bad because you're not getting clear tones and clear notes. So there's a lot of factors. And what I thought would be fun, when I saw this, I bought one like it for a friend to take to Kenya and just leave there. And of course, I changed the bridge action and some of that so it would play a little better. I thought it'd be fun for me to get one because sometimes you want to play in a venue where it's outside or the beach or something. You just want a guitar that if anything goes wrong, your heart's not broken. And so, you know, my main acoustic guitar that I play right now, I have a couple others. I have a nylon string and a 12 string that I made, which I wouldn't want to take out camping. And I have an old Silvertone that I restored, and it's, you know, it's almost as old as I am or thereabouts. And it's from the 60s. And so we could say we're the same age. And probably wouldn't want to haul that all over. And so this has one of those, it's a Ovation copy, so it's got this hard back. I want to say, if you're looking for a guitar for $75, you can't really do too poorly with this one. It's got all the necessary features. It's got electronics. I've actually installed this exact set of electronics in other guitars. Looking at it, I think it's possible that my nylon string has one of these in it. And the top is wood, but it's got some kind of a rubberized coating on top of it, kind of like the Jim Dandy has that Gretsch makes, which is fine. It doesn't hurt. I don't think it hurts the sound. It makes the guitar more durable. Things I don't really like this, you know, the gingerbread on here, mostly because it's not wooden inlay. It's not real wood. It's just a picture of wood that's stuck on. And I mean, it doesn't look awful. It just isn't what I would want. I'd sooner have nothing on there. This sunburst feature, this looks like it's a photograph of some kind of wood grain imposed onto the top. All in all, I could live with that, you know, if I wanted to. I may not. I may change that, but that's not part of setting up a guitar. So I want to illustrate, first of all, that you could buy a cheap guitar and play it. This doesn't sound too bad, you know. I think lowering the action is going to improve the notes, the intonation, and things like that. But I could play it. I can. It's fine. I could play along and sing with it, and there's really nothing wrong with it. That's pretty neat. If you take the the saddle out and you lower that. We're going to talk about that. You'll get the strings down lower. Same thing with the nut. You can lower the action on the guitar, and there are ways of doing that. And that's what I want to talk about today. My first step would be flattening the neck out. As a general rule, that's where I go first. I often come back to that also and check it, kind of like the last thing I do. And so I would, before I would lower the strings at either the nut or the saddle, I would check the bow in the neck, which looks like it could actually flatten out a little bit, just estimating it. That's not how we're going to do it. In the next clip or two, we'll talk about that, where we'll actually start doing it. I'll show you how I measure that. But I'll tell you right now, we're going to put a capo here on the 1st fret, and we're going to hold it down on the 14th fret like that. And we're going to get a feeler gauge at about the 7th or 8th fret and check, or the 6 or 7, and check that height, and there's something we're looking for, and then we'll adjust the truss rod, which is in here. And this came with an Allen wrench to do that very thing. And it's like all things, it's righty tighty, lefty loosey, and we'll do that. That's what we're getting ready to do. Just before we do, I thought it might be fun to. I got to put a battery in this, and we'll plug it in, see how the electronics do. So we'll use this Roland cube. That's just straight without any effect. So once again, it's fine. I have a little trouble with those strings being so high, and I'm using a flat pick. I do use them, not very often. I usually use finger picks, but obviously you couldn't play the mandolin with finger picks as a general rule. You use a flat pick, and there are times I flat pick a guitar because I always have a flat pick with me, but I don't always have finger picks. So that's pointless, but there you go. So that's where we are. Pretty good guitar for $75. The neck feels really nice and smooth. It's a good size, little narrow, more narrow than what I normally use. I kind of like, well, my old Silvertone, one of the things I like about it's got a big neck. The strings are a little further apart. Of course, my classical neck's even bigger. Strings further apart makes finger picking easier. But all in all, this is a good size, especially for smaller hands or people who don't want to get used to a wide neck. It's a lot like an electric guitar neck. I think potentially it could be a real player, which is something else I'll deal with. But the next clip will be set up in the shop, in the garage there. I'll have it out, and I'll have the tools and the measurements I need to set the bow in the neck first, and we'll talk about that. I hope you find this helpful and possibly interesting. Thank you. Well, hello. So as I said, the first thing we're going to do is adjust neck relief, because that will remain constant through most of our adjustments. That's why I always start with that. I want the neck relief right before I start adjusting nut height or bridge height, because neck relief would affect that. And so I don't want to get too carried away and do all this other stuff, and the neck relief is wrong. So you start by putting a capo, that's a capo, on the 1st fret. that pushes the strings down. And I don't know, you can see they're pretty high. But we'll be changing that in a little bit. Now then I press the 14th fret, which is usually on a lot of steel string guitars. Let's adjust this a little bit. A lot of steel string guitars, that's where the neck joins the body. It's 2 frets past the 12th fret, the double dots. See that? And some people use the 12th fret for a neck adjustment. The only time I use the 12th fret for that is if it's what we call a 12 fret guitar. If that's where the neck joins the body, then I use the 12th fret. And so I just come here to the 14th fret, and I just push my finger down on it. And then I'm going to measure the gap with a feeler gauge. And we have 4 different sizes. The reason being, I want to be able to find these sizes. So what we have on an electric guitar, your goal on a neck relief is 15 millimeters. So that's what we have out. Your goal on an acoustic guitar is 20 millimeters. So I have that out. Now I also have 18 and 19 out, just in case I want to average between those measurements. I'm going to start with the 20. That's my initial goal, and get it to that, which is an acoustic guitar. And while I know this is an acoustic guitar, because it's not largely made out of wood and it has a nice small neck like an electric, I'm going to see if I can get the neck relief closer to 15 eventually for my personal playing style, because I'm not one that tends to get a lot of fret buzz. I don't hit the guitar hard enough for that. So all we're going to do for now is take this 20 millimeter feeler gauge and put it in at the 7th fret, which basically is halfway between the 14th and the 1st. And so when I come, and that 7th fret will be 1 fret past my 3rd dot. So as I come in here, the 20 is kind of sloppy in here, and you want it to just squeeze in. And if I go to the 6th fret, it's even more sloppy. So I'm going to need to adjust that. So my next step is I will take my screwdriver. The first thing I will do is I will loosen the D and the G strings, the 2 middle strings. It just makes life easier. I'll loosen them pretty loosely so that I can set them out of the way on either side of the neck and get at the screws more easily. I'll take these 3 screws loose, and take that plate off, and that hides the bar that goes in, the steel reinforcement bar inside the neck has an Allen head screw on it, and I will, in this case, because I want less relief, I want the guitar neck to be flatter with less bow in it, I will tighten it. If it was too flat, I would loosen it. And it's like all nuts, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So if you turn right, it gets tight. You turn left, it gets looser. And as you loosen the torsion bar that's in there, it flattens the neck. As you loosen it, it allows the natural bow that's built into the guitar neck to bow more. As you tighten it, it pulls that neck out and makes it flat. So that's the first order of business. I'm going to pause the video while I go ahead and take the neck plate off. You don't need to watch me unscrewing screws and stuff like that. And then I'll get the Allen wrench out, and we'll make some adjustments and measurements, and it'll be like that. So here we are, and this is what it looks like with the neck plate off. And right inside here is the bar, and see that just Allen wrench fits right in there. This is the one that came with it. I'm going to turn it down towards the guitar so you see more of what I'm doing and less of me. And so I'm just going to go a couple turns at a time, and I'm tightening it, right? And it feels really loose, so that's obviously the problem. Now, I'm not going to over tighten this because I've done this before and I kind of have a bit of a feel for the process. I'm going to go, based on what I saw in the next neck relief, I'm going to go 3 turns and then check it and see if that solves it. Now, the neat thing, because I really only loosen the 2 middle screws, I'm just measuring the E string at this point. So I can easily just stick my capo back on there and figure out, there they are. I was going to say figure out where the feeler gauge was. Press here at the 14th fret, and I'm just going to go to the 7th fret and check that. It's still the string's still too high, so I need to flatten that out a lot more. And that's what's going to happen. And we'll do it one more time, and then if it needs more, I'll pause the video, because you just do that till you stop. But let's see what happens here. We'll take a couple more turns because it really didn't seem to make much difference. I think the bar was so loose in there that the first few turns were just tightening it up at all. So I'll put that back on, 1st fret. I come down here to the 14th fret, and we'll take our 20 millimeter gauge, and it's not quite touching the string, but I've gained ground. So I'm going to keep doing that. There's no point in watching me do that and make the video long. What you want to do is just keep going back and forth like that till you get it. In the case of an acoustic guitar, you get it down to 20 millimeters. If this was an electric guitar, I'd be working to get it down to 15. One of the reasons I'll end up doing this twice, if it was already a guitar that had been set up and the frets were in good condition and all of that, then then at that point, I probably would only do the neck relief once. But the plan eventually is I will be doing what's called truing the frets. We'll talk about that when I'm doing it. Because these frets, first of all, feel really rough, and so I don't like that. That has to be fixed, and they've just been put in. They don't look like they've ever been trued. We'll see how true they are, and we'll get to that. By the time I true the frets on this instrument and I adjust the nut and bridge height, I'll be wanting to check the neck relief again. And I've left myself, by going to 20 millimeters, I give myself a little bit of, 0.020. It's 0.508 millimeters, so apologize for that, but 0.020. And by the time I get there, because 15 millimeters seems like a lot, and it's not that, it's a fraction of it. By the time I get it to where I want it, I will should have a really nice playing guitar, but the truing the frets is what helps with fret buzz. So I'm going to pause the video, finish truing the neck, and then we'll talk about the next step. Okay, sorry about the mix-up on that whole measurement thing. Just, Freudian slip or whatever. I was just reading it and calling it millimeters because of the way it's printed on here. Where is it? Oh, it's backwards for you, but anyhow. 0.020508 millimeters. And we want the 0.020. Great measurement. And we'll go with that. Now, I'm all done, but I'm going to leave. I've done the neck relief, and I'm at the measurement I wanted. Just touches the string as it goes in there. Now, I'm going to leave the cover off, the truss rod cover off until I'm all done, for a lot of reasons. One, I'm going to come back to this step after I've done everything else. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to start looking at lowering the bridge and the nut. I'm going to start. So the next step that I take, and you can mix these up if you want. It's how I like to do things. But the next step is I'm going to lower the bridge. And my first order of business, I just eyeball it. I know. It's easier on electric guitar because the bridges have screws and you can raise it up and down. I'm just going to I have this gauge that allows me to talk about where I want my string heights, see? And I will use those little black deals. I just drop it on there, and it measures string height from the fret to the string. Now, what I want, you measure your string height when you're adjusting the bridge to the 12th fret. What I'm looking for, ideally, now on electric guitar, this is what you're looking for. You could go a little, barely higher on an acoustic. Nowadays, the acoustic guitars are so good, you can get pretty good action on them. So on the large string, the large E, the low string, you want to measure 6/64ths of an inch from the bottom of the string to the fret, the top of the fret. On the treble side, you want to measure 4/64ths. And so, I think 6/54ths comes out to maybe 2.4 millimeters or something of that nature. So that's what I'm going to do. So my next step is I'm just going to, I'll just take my gauge and I'll stick it on here, and it's really quite high. So if I was going with the millimeter thing, it's up to 3.25 millimeters, right? And I want it down by 2.4. So it's got to come down quite a bit. If I was doing in inches, it's the same type of measurement. I want it to come down that much. And so in this case, it looks like, to get where I want to be, I have to move this thing. I have to lower the strings at least 1/16 of an inch. So what I do, I guesstimate, because I'm going to do everything gradually. I just kind of push on the string till it gets down to where I want it in my gauge. And I can eyeball, and honestly, on this bridge means it looks like I have to take almost 1/8 of an inch off the bridge. I'll start with 1/16 and work my way that way, maybe 3/32 or something. And once again, I'll do it gradually. It's a pain in the neck, but it's the best way to do it right. So what I'm going to do on this bridge, I'm going to loosen all the strings, pull the bridge pins out, pull the strings out of the tail here, and flop them out of my way, and take the saddle out. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do to lower it. So I thought I'd show you the process. If I'm pulling bridge pins, they make bridge pin pullers. I never own one. But what I do, I just take my diagonal cutters and I get them under it, and I start to work it up gradually, and it should pull right out. If for any reason it's not pulling out, I'm always careful and slow. I can always come across the bridge here and just pry it up like that. So that's how the bridge pins are coming out. And it shouldn't be difficult to get them out. If it is, you want to be very careful. You try not to ruin your bridge pins in the process. So I'm not actually closing the dikes all the way, so I'm not trying to tear them up. Now, it just so happens I'll probably change these bridge pins out with another set that I have, because I want darker bridge pins when I'm finished with this guitar ultimately. But for now, I'll just use these. And well, I hit the camera. You just pull that out, and then you loosen the strings till you can pull them out like that. And so I'm going to get these strings out of here, and then we'll talk again in just a minute. So the strings are out, and now we just reach in here and we take the saddle out. This has a saddle. It's called some sort of relief saddle that's supposed to help the intonation. I don't know if it really always does. Some people call it a fender relief. I've noticed on some other instruments it's not so drastic. I know I had a Taylor, and I've looked at other Taylor guitars, and it's just not so drastic, and the intonation seems better. Classical guitars don't have any of that, and they sound pretty good too. So it's kind of up to you what you're comfortable with. If you're happy with this working, stick with it. But I probably wouldn't change it if I were you right away. This guitar is sounding pretty good. And this is a plastic saddle. You could trade it out, and I'll let you see my pretty face. You could trade it out if you like. They sell these on Amazon. Some you can get bone. You can even get brass and gold-plated brass and stuff like that. You can get micarta. This one is just plastic. Now, one of the arguments on acoustic electric against bone. Now, I like bone, and I think it has a good sound. But I know Taylor guitars doesn't always use bone, and what they told me about that was the bone's inconsistent in its density, so it doesn't always translate to the strings, putting the same amount of tone and vibration to the electronics. So that's their reasoning for that. So a micarta bridge would make more sense. But that's neither here nor there on setting up a guitar. If you don't want to buy stuff, use this bridge. Now, the one thing that I will add, the strings that come with the guitar, if you're going to set up a guitar, the disclaimer is these strings are a sacrificial lamb. They're going to be taken off and tuned back up and taken off and loosened and everything so many times, it's going to weaken them, and they'll probably won't last as long as strings normally would last. That's fine with me, particularly in this case. These are those bright orange strings. They're not even like a normal phosphorus bronze. I assume they're probably hand wound, which is good. Hand wound strings are very nice. These are Chinese strings. They have that real bright color. I like phosphorus bronze a lot, but I don't like it on this type of instrument as much. They're the hard back that's arched like that, and Ovation does that because it's like the concert thing. They say it affects the acoustics and improves them, so that makes sense. That being said, the phosphorus bronze strings can really sound harsh and have a lot more tone than you're looking for in an Ovation style back. This is not an Ovation, it's a Glary, but it can affect it. So if these strings wear out, I'm fine, because I will kind of want to do a silver plated winding like a gypsy jazz string or something. So getting back to this piece, I'm going to mark it, and it really comes down to just, there it is, just estimating. I'll probably take 3/32 off of this. So I'm going to mark it, draw a line, a straight line, use my little straight edge here and my pencil. And I'm just going to try to get some lead out of my pencil. There we go. And you can see I have that. It's even. I'm just going to mark it. Slick. And that didn't leave much of a mark. But it did leave a mark, and it's enough for what I want. Now I have this big old chunk of wood. I use it for a lot of things. I also, on one side of it, I pretty much leave these sandpaper discs taped onto this, and I just get on the rough side and I just start sanding like that. And I'm sure you'd love to watch me do that, but I'm not going to let you. And so I'm just going to sand it. I can see the pencil mark pretty well, actually. I'm just going to sand it down to the pencil mark, and which may not be far enough, but I'll get it down to that. I'll put this in, put all the strings on. I won't tune it, but I'll get them tight enough that they're tight like they need to be. And then I'll check it out at the 12th fret and see if I'm getting close. I'll go a little high, not a lot, a little, just because I'll go to 2.5 millimeters. And the reason for that is I'll probably have to do a little more work on it, but that gets me, because this is so far out, then at that point I'll go down and I'll adjust the nut. And the nut is easy to remember because I'll actually use the feeler gauge, and my goal on the low E string will be 20.020 inches, and on the high E it'll be 0.010 inches, and I'll be doing that in a little while. But for now, it's going to take me a while to get the bridge ready. So once I get that down there, everything should be very close to what I want. The way I get the nut off, I should talk about that. Once again, this plastic nut, it's nothing sacred about it. But I usually heat it a bit with the blow dryer. I just get it a little warm. And I can usually, with that, I can just pop it loose without breaking anything or tearing up any wood. Heat's important because it loosens the glue. And so that's really a nice thing to remember. You have to get it hot enough, you can't rush it. That comes up, you probably never do this, but I've taken bridges off and re-glued them and things like that. I recently did that on the Silvertone upgrade when I restored it. I took the bridge off, and then and the point is get it really warm and gradually work your putty knife in there. Guys that rush it tear the wood. They break up the wood and they make a real mess, and that's not what you're after. So I'll just heat this plastic nut and I'll pop it off with probably my little fret hammer, which is rubber on one side and plastic on the other. I'll just tap it and it'll come loose. And then I'll do the same thing with that when we get there. I will have had to restring this after I adjust the bridge, and at that point I'll kind of estimate how much I think I should take off the nut to get it down where I want it, which is a lot easier because you're right there. And I'll take the nut down and I'll show you that. Now, it's kind of adjusting the nut on this guitar, for me personally, is going to be a waste of time, other than the fact I'm just going to do it so you see how it's done. Because I'm going to change things here, and you'll get to see that in the video that I do on customizing this guitar for myself personally. And that means I will I will either, I haven't decided, I will either add some, I have some rosewood, I'll add some more fretboard material right here on the end, just like 1/8 of an inch, or I'll retro this nut. But I have to take a little bit out so that it's even with the fretboard, and then I'll take my slot saw and I'll make a fret slot, and I'll put a fret in there, and that's called a 0 fret. If your guitar has a 0 fret, you don't have to adjust the nut because it's just a guide, and the fret already has you at the perfect height because it goes with all the other frets. So hope I'm not confusing anything and that you'll find this helpful. Right now I'm going to be doing some sanding on that bridge, the saddle, and you probably won't see me for a while because I have other things going on today. So in the last video I talked about setting up a guitar, and I finished setting this guitar up, and it plays really well. But it works great.